Good evening, and welcome along to another big night in. It's been a little bit sporadic the last few weeks because, of course, we've had the big kickoff that was stretched over 2 weekends, and then we had the Mastermind virtual event as well, which I know so many of you attended. I hope you are doing well. Give us a quick thumbs up if you can see us, and a quick wave if you can hear us. Good. Well, listen, it's lovely to have you with us. Now, as you can probably see, this doesn't look like my normal background. I am actually in Barcelona. This is a real background, by the way. I'm in Barcelona, in my dad's apartment, my dad and my stepmom, visiting them for the weekend. So I thought this weekend would be a really good opportunity to up our game on social media and to hear from 3 people who are senior group leaders. They're all 200 plus or above. They're all top supporters, top achievers in the business. And all 3 of them have had real success over the last few months or years on social media, but they have very different approaches. And that is what I think is going to make this conversation that we're going to hear right now really fascinating, because they're not all going to pander to each other and say, oh yes, you're brilliant. They are actually going to challenge each other, learn from each other, and find out from each other why they take the approach they do and how it maybe is or isn't for them. So I think it's going to be really interesting stuff. They're going to share some real life examples as well. So that there's some stuff that we can practically take away and start to use so that we can all improve our game on social media. Social media isn't the only way to go forward, but it is, of course, a strand that it would be helpful if all of us had, more skills with. And of course, when it comes to social media, it is very much, it's part of the shop front for us, and we want to make sure our shop window looks great. Let's just put it this way. We want to make sure that we look as classy as possible. We want to make sure that when people look at us and see us as a brand and UW as a brand, they see it in the very best possible light. So we're going to go over now to 3 senior group leaders. We've got Alexandra Roberts and Samantha Earnshaw, who are basically 2 of the very quickest senior group leaders we have had in living memory of UW. And we've got Del Hughes as well. Del Hughes, who has also had a real great rise in the business as well over the past few years. So over to Alex, Sam and Del.
I'm Alex Roberts. I'm an SGL in the business, and I feel like this is my confession. And I hold back on social media. So I do a lot of posting, a lot of social media, but come at it very much from a kind of lifestyle and attraction marketing perspective. I don't mention really much about UW or saving money or anything like that. And we'll go into a little bit more detail about how I do it, but that's really my position, very kind of guarded when it comes to the business.
I'm also on social media a lot, every single day. And I would say I'm very much like jazz hands and out there, and very much mention UW. But again, more in a lifestyle way, not too in your face, but more than you.
Absolutely, yeah, totally. Del?
Social media for me, I love the fact that you can interview team members with social media, because I think it's the stories that catch the attention. We're also busy flicking and scrolling quickly through our feeds. And if it's just kind of salesy and talking about gas, electricity, folk just go past that. And I made those mistakes. So for me, it was about trying to find something that's going to engage them. And I think I'm quite nosy. You know, if I see somebody talking about something, what are they talking about? So I think for me, it's about interviewing the success, asking people questions about, incentives and things like that. So I kind of approach social media from that kind of side. It's about letting other people tell their story.
And that's interesting that you just said that you did it wrong in the past, because absolutely I did. And that's kind of why I feel so strongly about it now, is because I broke all my rules before I realized I had any rules. And it actually was, I went to a training that Wes put on, and kind of the penny dropped for me, really, in terms of how I knew I wanted to move forward. But interestingly, I think, we were talking before about the fact that, you do have, even when you're doing it wrong, you do have wins. So I think there's also, we also need to be careful that if our team members are actually on social media and doing stuff and showing, you know, attitude and willing and all that sort of stuff, we don't necessarily want to squash their enthusiasm by telling them, no, don't do it like that, or don't do it that way, blah, 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 blah. We want to encourage the fact that they are actually doing it.
I totally did it wrong. And I come from a product selling background. So when you come from a product selling background, it was copying and pasting. It was just sending the same message out to, you know, 40 people every hour, so you didn't end up in Facebook jail. And it was only when I moved to UW and started to really think about it, and it was actually, do people want to see? It was one thing spamming people with makeup, but then trying to spam people with gas and electric, you know, it's just not very exciting. And, you know, we sit here and we go, but who doesn't want to save money? And actually, when you spam them, they're not interested in the slightest. But stick a story behind it and stick a benefit as to, well, what has that saving actually created? What has that person benefited from by saving £40 a month? Put it into something tangible, and then people start being interested, and they're, oh, actually, £40 a month. Yeah, that will probably pay for, you know, Jacob's football classes twice a week or whatever. And when you put it into something that actually means something to someone, that's when they start to think, because they can relate to it. But just saving, you know, save money on your gas and electric. We've all done it, and we all know.
Social media is a huge tool if you use it right. Everyone's on it. You know, even our mums or dads or grands and grandas, they're all on it. But if you're a lot of my feed can sometimes be quite salesy stuff, and I feel that if I think it's a hint of selling to me, I'm just flicking past it. But if I don't know what the content is, I'll spend a minute to figure out what it's about. And we get so many incentives in UW, you know, you so many promotions, there's so many excuses to use to be able to promote what UW does to your network. If Alex is in my team and she's hit QD, then I'm maybe going to want a quick 3-minute chat with her. It doesn't need to be a big long thing. I just want Alex's energy on the screen for a couple of minutes to say, why did you join? What success have you had, and how do you feel? And it's that real passion, it's that real story that I think grabs the attention in social media. And then folk go, wow, so who is this? And they start to then pay more attention. And if I tag Alex in it, Alex might be shy, but because I tag her in that post, all of Alex's contacts see the video. So I'm actually helping Alex get better at social media without having to sit her through any kind of course. I'm just guiding her through it. And we saw some really good traction. And it was when I saw that the growth we were getting, I was like, oof, we're on to something here. Now, the downside of social media is it's the leap of faith, because it's scary. It is scary. You need to just put your big girl or your big boy pants on, and you need to say to yourself, look, I'm going to be nervous. I'm going to just do it. And the more I do it, the better I become.
I took the idea that you had and actually interviewed Danielle. We didn't mention anything about UW, gas and electric. We just had a chat about what it's like working together and how that's changed and how our relationship has changed as a result. And I probably had 5 or 6 people who I've never spoken to about this business message me on the back of that video saying, what is it that you're doing? And for me, that's what I love. I love the intrigue. I love people not really knowing what it is, but understanding that it's something that they want to know more about. So I took your idea, which was not the right perspective for me, but I've made use of that idea in my own way, and it's really working for me. So I think, stealing and copying ideas, great, and just turning it into something that works for you.
I think as well, you've got to be authentically you.
Yeah.
And you've got to really believe in what you're typing, and that's why copying and pasting never works. Because if I copied what you're posting, Del, then I'm not a bloke. I will see something from a completely different angle. And even though me and Alex are both mums and we're both female, we both said that we do things completely differently, and it both works. And I think if you're just you, then people are joining you. So you've got to be you. That's why copying and pasting doesn't work, because then they join you and they'll get then the real you, which isn't who they joined. And I think even if, like, I've done lives before, and you do get really passionate, and I've cried on lives, and and I always think my mum's sat on my shoulder, so just watch what you say. Don't be too political, don't be too out there, because people don't want to see a rant or anything. But I think sometimes, when you've achieved a holiday or something good has really happened in this business, and you kind of go live and you're telling people. I absolutely bawled on a live, stood outside at Magic Kingdom, because it was the day we hit SGL, and I just burst into tears going live, and it was like proper true. It was how I felt, and I got so many people saying, right, what is it that you do? What is it you do? Because they see that you are you, and they want to join you. They don't want to join a copy and paste person.
Yeah.
So I think you've got to always just think, I'm me, and what I put is good enough. And if you started at the bottom, that's totally fine, because you knew, so no one would expect polished social media. You're gonna mess up, but that's okay too.
Absolutely. And then of course you've got all the sort of the technical, the algorithm stuff, where if you're copying and pasting, it actually, you're using the same. Literally same images, same text, and all that sort of stuff. Del, you know more about this than me, but I know that
Facebook knows that when you're doing it. It can tell it's not, because what the social media platforms are looking for is they're looking for original creative content. So when you're doing your copy and paste, their algorithm goes, oh, that's copy paste. So see, when you post it, you might think you've got 1,000 friends and they're all seeing it. It's maybe going in 3 people's feed.
Yeah.
And you're plagiarizing someone else's work. So I won't just do a post just dead quick. You put thought into it, and like I just said, you are you, you're authentic. And so you put in something that might be personal, how you felt, what it's, all about you. And then someone comes along and copies it, and you're like, huh? But how can you be me?
Let's talk about a few examples of, I don't know if you've got an idea of a post that worked particularly well for you recently, maybe. I can think of one that I did, which possibly, I think off the top of my head, I ended up with about 7 recruitment appointments from a single post, which is not something that happens regularly for me. It's unlikely that you will have one post that just hits the mark with everybody. I happened to be scrolling through and I saw that somebody in the business obviously is a landlady and also works in UW very successfully in UW. And she had compared her residual income in UW with her residual income as a property owner. And obviously anybody that's involved in property knows that it's not residual in the same way that ours is residual. We do the job once, we get paid every month, regardless. When you're a property owner or any kind of level of property, you have to work for that residual income, because there's no chance, well, you'd be very lucky if you had a property where nothing happened, nothing went wrong, the tenant was wonderful, etc., etc. So because I'm in that situation too, I took her idea of comparing the two, but I completely changed it into my own situation. So I was really, really honest about what my property costs me, what I'm getting back from it, how much the cost of living crisis has impacted that. My mortgage has gone up. All of the things that have now affected how much money I'm actually making on that property, to the point where I've actually decided to sell it, because it's just not working for me in the same way that property was working for people, months ago, years ago, whenever I decided to do it. And then I compared it with my UW residual, and I kind of said, and I'm very lucky that I have this other option. My, original plan B has now become my plan A, and it's true residual, and I explained why. Personally, I still didn't mention UW. I just called it my plan B, etc. I could not believe the response, because what I wasn't expecting was it actually created a debate about being a property owner, whether it was worth having a property at the moment, what the mortgage rates were doing. So many people were commenting on it because the subject itself was interesting, that it got pushed so wide. And I genuinely think that's why I got so many recruitment appointments from it, was because so many people were commenting, nothing to do with residual income. They were commenting on mortgage rates and, being a landlord and all this. I didn't know how many of my friends were actually landladies and landlords, because we'd never had that conversation. But because the post got pushed so wide and so many people commented on it, so many more people saw it than has ever seen anything of mine before. And a few people picked up on the fact that I said I had another option that was better. And the result was, I mean, I'm still now going through the appointments. That was only sort of a couple of weeks ago, and I've still got appointments in the diary. A couple of people have been recruited already from it. And they're people that I personally hadn't approached about this business. But I'm so glad I did, because they're doing really well.
Natural engagement is what Facebook or Instagram, that's what it's looking for.
But it created a conversation that then, you know, there was backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards.
So were you answering every comment?
Yeah.
That's again key.
Well, I thought you'd tell me off for that.
No, because a lot of people will do a post, and then when people comment, they don't answer back. The social media platforms screaming out for you to answer back, to add flame, add fuel to the thread. Yeah. So brilliant.
Yeah, so mine don't get anything like that. Very few and far between would mine even look remotely successful. So I would say sometimes you'll do a post and you think, God, no one's seen it. It's a tumbleweed. But actually, it's those drip feeds regular all the time, saying the same thing over and over, because your story is your story and it's enough. And I joined, I'm a mum, and I really, really needed financial independence. I've worked full time, I've had my own business, and now I'm a mum, and all my financial independence disappeared as soon as I became a mum. I had to then go to John and say, can I have money, please? And he'd say, what for? And he'd always give me the money, but it was the fact that he always said, what for? And it's like, well, none of your business. But I recognise that a lot of mums are in that situation where we want to be a stay-at-home mum, but we also want our own money to do with whatever we want. Mm-hmm. And I've had my own business, and I've also worked full-time. So I know that working full-time, you've not got the time element to do stuff that you want to do when the kids are in before and after school clubs. In my own business, there was no financial security, because clients would cancel and I wouldn't be able to pay a bill. And then being a mum was brilliant, but you don't get paid. So when I do a post, I will either post to one of those three. You can't do a post that will attract all three. You've got to do from the heart, you know, being authentic. When I worked full time, this was the problem, and UW has given me this solution, etc. But there's a lot of tumbleweed posts, an awful lot, where you think no one's watching. But actually, they watch for long enough, and eventually that one post will go, actually, I'm going to message her. And I would say 80% of everyone that I've recruited, and I've recruited well over 100, they've all messaged me. I've not sent a message to them to say, would you be interested in looking at what I do? They've messaged me and said, Sam, I've seen your post. What is it that you actually do? And then it's easy, because then you say, why, what's the issue? What's the problem? What, you know, and then they tell you all their problems as to what their issue is. And we then just say, actually, we can help. So then recruiting becomes really quite simple, because you're just providing a solution to that pain that they've got. But by seeing your post drip fed consistently over and over, not changing the story, your story's your story, but consistently saying it, they believe you. And they go, do you know what? If that's worked for her, maybe that can work for me. I'm a mum, or I work full time, or, you know, so they relate to it.
And I find that carries through once you've recruited them as well, because they've already got the belief. You haven't got to teach them that. You haven't got to show them that it works, because they might have been watching you for a couple of years. I've definitely had people join me that have been watching for that long.
Evan Reid, he's just get promoted to GL, so he's in one of the videos for UW. He watched us on social media for 8 months.
Yeah.
8 months. He says it. He says, I'm so annoyed that I just kept on watching, but I kept watching, but something was just like, I don't know, just something held him back, and then something happened in his life, and he thought, right, I'm just going to ask the question, figure it out, and 18 months.
Well, that's the thing. That's why the drip feeding works, because at one point in their life, everything's fine and they don't need UW. And now that we're in this cost of living crisis, at the moment, they might think that they're okay. But a month down the line, when the credit card bills start hitting, that's when they start thinking, oh, okay, so what was Alex talking about? And then they start, but you've planted the seed, and then it's just the harvest will come when it comes, but it generally always comes. You've just got to plant the seeds.
I think we'd probably better wrap this up. But I think the conclusion that we've probably come to is what we kind of knew would be the case in the beginning, is that there's lots of different ways to do this. And you've got to stay true to what works for you and what you believe in. And at the same time, nick everybody else's ideas and make them your own.
Yes.
Would you agree?
Yeah. If you want social media to work for you, no matter what approach you're going to take, consistency has got to be the underlying bed. You said it about 4 times in your previous sentences there, Sam. You kept on mentioning consistency, because social media only works if you feed the platform. And if you're going to post something and sit and wait, or post a couple of things and then, that I'm not getting much back, that doesn't work, you're thinking about it all wrong.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Sam and Del. So stay true, nick everyone's ideas, and be consistent. Thanks, guys.
Well, thank you to Alex and Sam and Del. Some really, really great insights there, and really fantastic to have that real life experience as we all look to improve our game on social media. So that brings us to the end of another Big Night In. Thank you so much for joining us this week. Just a couple of things to let you know. We are going to be doing some replays over the next couple of days. Keep your eyes peeled for the times and the dates and that kind of thing. And we'll make sure that if you want to rewatch, or if you've got team members that missed out, that you'll find out the dates in all the normal places so that you can do so. I am going to wish you a very good week ahead. It's been an incredible February so far, and I know we're going to finish off and have a great end to the month too. So wish you a fantastic week. See you next weekend, and thank you so much for joining us.